George Burns, and I sometimes have to tell a younger audience, George Burns was a wonderful comedian in
Who
America.
that was, right?
George, yeah, George Burns and Gracie Allen, and I said he was
Yeah.
brilliant. And on his 95th birthday, a reporter asked him, Mr. Burns, do you ever worry about dying? And he said, I can't die now. I'm booked.
Welcome to Creativity with Purpose, where we explore the stories, struggles, and sparks that shape our creative lives. I'm your host, Ann Murachek, author, healer, and believer in the power of meaningful expression. Together, we'll dive deep into what it means to create with heart, live with intention, and heal through the beauty of storytelling.
I'm Ann Murachek, and this is Creativity with Purpose. Today we're talking with Jim Flattery. He is 89, soon to be 90, but he thinks he's 59 or maybe 39. And he was a writer and creative director of advertising agencies in New York City and in Buenos Aires, Argentina. He has published 2 novels and 3 nonfiction about aging cheerfully and productively. He wrote 4 of his books in his 80s. His latest is Loving Longevity. Make your next years your best. He says, I am 89 and have a 10-year plan. He was creator and innkeeper of the legendary 5-star Country Inn Conference Center. He has managed the pulpit as well as TEDx stage. He is a father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. He was raised in Southern Florida before air conditioning, and he attended the University of Florida and graduated from MSU with a degree in communications. Besides writing and giving speeches, he has a television series, a screenplay, and musical in his creative portfolio. So welcome to Creativity with Purpose, Jim Flattery. Hi, Jim.
Thanks, Ann. Great.
This is
Nice
so
to see
great
you.
to talk to you. Oh, this is wonderful. I'm glad we got to connect. So Florida with no air conditioning, that's a different world.
Yeah, absolutely. The people said, well, you couldn't possibly exist. I said, we thrived. It was fine.
Sure.
The only problem, and I will admit to it now, is that I grew up under the sun before sunblocks.
All
And we
right.
weren't inside, we were outside in the sun, which was, quote, good for you. So
Uh-huh.
I've had every skin cancer you can possibly imagine. Yeah, but fine, you cope with it. Big deal,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah.
know.
Yeah. That's something we share in common. I get melanomas constantly, this Scotch Irish skin,
Uh,
but several times a day I just roll frankincense essential oil on it and they go away for me. So for me,
okay,
that works.
good,
Yeah.
good, great.
Be
Frankie, I'll
easy.
try that. Good.
Hmm. So I love it that you're still writing. Show me don't you have a copy of your book?
Yes,
You
my
see,
latest book is
wonderful.
Loving Longevity, and it's I don't call it. I call my novels, they fall in that category of literary fiction.
Yes.
This is more, it's every chapter could start with, "Hey Ann, let me tell you something."
Dude,
It's a shoulder to shoulder chat
I
with
like it.
Jim telling you
Yeah,
how he feels about life and your life and why I think you could live longer if you could maybe adopt some of these habits,
I love
right?
it. I love it.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. They talk about blue zones, and you're just a living example of that, and I think blue zone starts within. Don't you
Absolutely.
agree? I
I'm
mean,
I'm
I consider myself a blue zone.
yeah.
And even at my age, I'm 68 now. I had
Who are you?
so
Wow.
yeah, I had so many friends and family, not immediate family, but extended family, criticizing me for starting this new journey as author and public speaker. And
Mhm.
that makes no sense to me. I'm thinking, gosh, this could be at least a 25-year career for me, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it makes no sense to not follow your current passion and reinvent yourself.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, Blue Zones, which was founded and discovered by and written about by a fellow named Dan Buettner. I did a 1 week workshop with Dan. He and I are good friends. We're very close friends, and I love him. And I've read all the Blue Zones books, and I know exactly what it stands for. In case your audience doesn't know, it's
Yes.
where there are more centenarians in the
Yes.
world. There are 5 places in the world where they are, and it really comes down to a healthy diet, more plant-based
Yes.
than not. Uh, Walking, not riding.
Yes.
um, uh, Taking time for yourself to take a nap when you need it and relaxing, but mainly having friends around you, having contacts. And now, finally, all the doctors and statisticians in the world are saying, guess what? It That's why you live longer, is not being isolated, not being lonely. That loneliness is now more dangerous than smoking. It's very interesting. They're finally
It is.
realizing that what it is having an active and meaningful life around you of friends, hopefully multi-generational, as my
Yes.
friends are. They range from 45 to 90,
Sure.
which I liked. you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And that's so true because your spirit is ageless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I have dear friends that are children,
Hmm.
right? I mean,
Hmm.
some of my students are still in grade school, and yet
Right.
we're
Good.
truly friends. I am in a
Yeah.
mentoring, teaching them piano lessons. I'm in a mentoring position, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, I value their little spirits and their insights. And boy, kids will tell it to you straight.
Absolutely. That's
you know?
that's
So I think we can connect to each other in such meaningful ways if we match vibration.
yeah.
And that's completely irrelevant to the age of the vessel that we currently find ourselves in.
Right. No,
Yeah.
absolutely, Ann. I one of the things I try not to sound like I'm standing behind the pulpit, which I have done now and then. I'll back up for a minute. I was raised Catholic,
Okay.
good Catholic boy. Didn't go to Catholic school, but and my father was, who died unfortunately at age 47, was the leading Catholic lawyer in the state of Florida. So um, it was fine, and I was on and off Catholic all those years,
Huh?
and then I used to drive into New York. I lived 2 hours north of New York, and I would drive in just to hear a particular minister that I thought
Oh
was
my.
brilliant. And friends here, Jim said, Jim, we have an incredible minister who's just come to live here and be our minister in Armenia, New York, where I live, in a Presbyterian church. So I said, fine, I'll come listen to him.
Sure.
And I joined the church. I'm the assistant choir director and on the board. I'm a director of the church. And meanwhile, one of my closest friends is the local rabbi and his wife, who've become very close friends. And he calls me a collapsed Catholic. But now I got off the subject, wherever we were going. But one of the things I do talk about, and I've talked about it even from the pulpit because I've had to take over the pulpit a couple of times,
Uh,
which always scares the holy hell out of me. I gotta tell you, I can walk out on a stage with 300 people and I'm okay, but being in the pulpit and there's maybe 60 people down there and another 40 on Zoom, and
uh,
I'm thinking, don't screw up, Jim.
uh,
But I always say to people, you know, as my late great mother taught me, she said, every morning of your life, you have to greet your biggest critic, the highest emotional wall you have to hurdle. It's that person in your bathroom mirror.
yeah.
And you could either look at that person and go, good God, another day, or smile bravely and cheerfully and say, good God, another day,
Right.
and go after it. And I say to people, learn to accept the miracle of life, that in terms of eternity, we live maybe 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And so if you're 50 years old, you've lived 4 minutes. So what are you going to do with the next 2 minutes? You know what you're going to do for the next couple of hours, but how about the next decade?
Yeah.
And I say, learn to accept the fact that isn't it great? I have another opportunity to see, hear, taste, touch, smell, share, embrace, love. Wow, what a gift. That's
Yes.
an everyday gift. And
Yes.
I think about that. Pardon my camera, it does that automatically. I think about that, and uh, I don't know. I never wake up depressed because I
Right.
always wake up thinking, wow, I'm going to have another great opportunity today to do things and hopefully help somebody else, expecting nothing in return. Do a good deed, be courteous, be helpful. I'm trying to live that. I'm trying to make that a part of my daily routine. Who are you going to help today? Who, whose life are you going to make better? You know?
That's beautiful. And that that place that you hold of living in gratitude,
Yeah. Yeah.
that place that you hold for your own spirit of self-love and acceptance,
Hmm.
the place that you hold for yourself of giving yourself permission to follow your passion
Hmm.
and to, when you're in front of an audience, to tell yourself, I love them and I am willing to give of myself and my time and my energy for their growth and their improvement or their gratification or whatever it is, whatever your goal is, whatever your gift is. I think that empowers us to be very free in our living.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, I hate to hear people say, well, one of the reasons I started writing these books about aging cheerfully and productively is that as I hit 80, never expecting to live that long, I didn't come from a long-lived family, which, by the way, everybody should know that people say, well, I'm going to live forever because my grandfather was 95. Your longevity, your DNA accounts for 14% of your longevity.
Yeah.
The rest of it is mindset and how you take care of, I call your body the family refrigerator. If you don't take care of it, the ice maker will stop working and the water, I mean, you depend on it. You've had it for 20 years, but you've got to take care of it.
Right.
You have to eat the right things, and you don't smoke, and you don't drink, and you don't, and it's okay. Life goes on, and you feel much better about yourself. But it's I don't know. It's very important for people to have that sense of gratitude and that sense of purpose and goal and a reason to wake up in the morning. Because as I was saying, what I saw as I reached 80 is that so many people who had been sticks of dynamite in their 40s, 50s, 60s suddenly were retreating from life. And I said,
Mhm.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
You were terrific and funny, and now you say you nobody wants to see. I said, that's absolute BS. I don't buy it. I
Right.
just don't buy it. You're not working at, you got to work at being a friend and
Yes.
having friends. You can't
Yes.
say, well, I'm charming and wonderful and therefore I'm going to have lots of friends. It doesn't work that way, folks. It really doesn't work that way, you know. So I don't know. Can can I do something really silly and
Sure.
read you something? I love that I heard this in a weekly webinar I do with a group of healers, yoga, doctors, all kinds of things. But I've been part of it for 3 or 4 years. And I was talking to them about the importance of smiling. And I
All
said,
right.
when you smile at somebody, they're not going to look back at you and go, huh, what?
Right.
You
Exactly.
just smile. And
Right.
this man had a poem which I absolutely loved. It's by a Brit named Spike Milligan. It's called Smile. Smiling is infectious. You catch it like the flu. When someone smiled at me today, I started smiling too. I walked around the corner and someone saw me grin. When he smiled, I realized I had passed it on to him.
That's
I
cute.
thought about the smile and then realized its worth. A single smile like mine could travel around the earth. So if you feel a smile begin, don't leave it undetected. Start an epidemic and get the world infected.
Oh, that's darling.
And I thought that's wonderful.
It's darling. Yes, exactly. Because I find that when you encounter people, you put out an energy. We've all experienced when someone walks in the room, you're either drawn to them or you back up, right? And if your energy is that of a high vibration of gratitude and love and joy, and you're smiling, people usually will respond in kind to them. They will raise to match your energy.
Hmm.
And that's where there's meaningful connection that takes place.
Absolutely. You were just saying something that I was just writing a blog this morning. By the way, do you know Modern Elder Academy, Anne?
No, I do not. You
Oh,
can
I
you can
want you
teach me.
I want you to write them to look at modernelderacademy.com and write them and put your name on the free mailing list for the daily blog and free
Okay.
monthly webinars. It's brilliant. Then they have workshops. I've gone to 5 workshops, and I'm leaving next Sunday to go to they have 2 campuses, one in the Baja in Mexico, and one near Santa Fe, and I'm going to Baja to help teach writing for the month of July. You know, you know, which is lovely. And I've been to the Baja many times, and I speak Spanish anyway, so I'm very happy being in a Mexican location. Uh, but I was just writing a blog for them this morning, and you said when you walk into a room, that's the subject of my blog
Oh,
is what's the reaction when you walk in a room? What's the reaction of people? Do they smile and say to themselves, "Oh, great, Ann is here or Jim is here, and things will get better," or they'll fix things or they're going to make life better? Or are they someone, as you mentioned, where you walk in a room and it won't be you or me, but how when somebody walks in a room and people instinctively go, "Oh my God, he's here or she's
yes.
here,"
We've all
and
experienced that. Yes.
it and I say to people, it's remember that. It's who you are when you walk in the room. And if you walk in the room and smile, and people are going to be happy to see you,
Yes.
and if they know you're there to do positive things, not negative things, which we'll get on to remind me before you and I go today, Ann, to talk about the golden rule. And
Let's chase it right now.
okay.
Why not?
My mother, my darling mother, I'm a mama's boy because she raised me. I had no older siblings, and my father died when I was
Yeah.
not quite 14, going on
Oh,
11. I
yeah,
was in
sure.
those days we weren't emotionally over age. There was no high school sex or drugs or it was again we were the yes or no ma'am generation.
Yes.
Um, but uh, anyway, the golden rule: do unto others as you would have others do unto you. It started way, way, way back before Jesus. They found it, samples of it back in tombs from years ago, and then Confucius used it, and then it started showing up in every known religion. And sure enough, it's in the Bible, almost the way it is now. That same use, that's the way it's been passed down over the years. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And when I had 2 children, and when my girls were little girls, I thought, lay that on a 4 or 5 year old, and they'll say, "Huh?"
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't like it as a writer. So I rewrote the golden rule.
Oh,
How's that for arrogance? And I rewrote it 5 words. I said, two of them are four-letter words, and people said, that's typical of you, Flaherty. All, four-letter words, you know them all. I said, yes, but there's also, may I remind you that help, save, love, pray are all four-letter words also. Anyway, but my golden rule is you get what you give. And the way I explained it to my children and to myself is if you really listen, if you give a sympathetic ear, if you give a generous heart, if you give a loving hug, a meaningful smile, you get it back. If all you do is bitch and moan and complain, that's what you get back too, you know.
Right.
So, it's not that hard. Give good, you get good. And again, I think it falls back into an area of general courtesy, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
So much of what I see is people being in an emotional reaction mode to the external world around, and that includes social, political, relationships, everything. They're always lashing out with this emotional knee-jerk reaction. And a reaction is not a mindful, chosen response.
Right. Right.
And if we give ourselves the grace of that pause between the external stimulus and our chosen response, I think it's always better for everyone.
Right. Uh-huh. Right. Absolutely.
And living in that place of internal quiet, I think, is also part of the longevity of the spirit, because we are not, chaotic, responsive, fight or flight.
Right.
We are in a calmness inside and an intentionality. And even though there's chaotic things in the world around us, we are making our own wake, right? In a place of stillness within. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, that's part of the experience of overcoming really what the medical world has taught me were insurmountable injuries. I am a survivor of a catastrophic broken neck.
Oh.
It's still broken.
Oh my God, Ann.
Yeah. When I was 16, my algebra teacher hit me in an incredible, horrific, rear-ending car accident before we had headrests. And so I'm a chronic pain patient, but do I bring that constant pain to my interactions, my relationships? No, I don't. I ignore it and I move on. And I tell myself that is something eventually I will lay down when I leave this body. It's something I have to deal with on a 24/7 basis. But you know what? I use my hemp oil and I move on. Right. I'm focused on the joy of creativity or flowing in purpose or talking to somebody wonderful like my friend Jim. Those awarenesses, that pain goes to the background like a static. It's almost as if it recedes like the sound of the motors running on the Titanic. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And someday that'll stop, and this boat will sink. But in the meantime, I just push it to the background and move forward and ignore it. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I choose not to let that define my experience.
That's That's terrific. I
Yeah.
hate to hear that story. I mean, I know other stories like that. I think, God, would I be that brave about it? And I think, yeah, I probably would. I would
Yeah, I think
probably
you
handle. I
would.
mean, I've had the normal. I've talked to my daughters about it. My babies are now 63 and 65. I said, don't tell Daddy when you're 70. I don't really want to know that I have 70-year-old children. They said, too bad, old man. We know you're going to live forever, just to spite us.
Cute.
I, I love them both dearly. By the way, there's a statistic that men with daughters live longer.
Interesting. There you go.
Yeah, hey, so
Interesting.
I'm always happy to have my daughters around. One lives in Pennsylvania, one lives in England, but we see each other all the time.
Neat.
We're
That's so
we're
neat.
very active and with 4 millennial grandsons and all that
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
But
How lovely.
um, I I I got off the subject, but that happens to
Oh,
me all the time. Oh, I know. We're talking about pain. I
right.
told the girls, you know, we're very fortunate as a family in that we've never had tragedy in the family. We've had normal. I had a cancer, not the skin cancer. I had a regular cancer, and and a rotator cuff, and I was just knocked over in Mexico when I was out in the boonies and ended up with bad Mexican surgery and was in bed for 8 weeks. Flew home, ripped that out, put in a new hip, all that.
Oh,
I said, but it's just stuff. And we get over those. It
yeah,
doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
yeah.
I said, you go over and you forget them. you
Right.
know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's kind of the where I come from. It's like, yes, the neck is still broken. It's just as broken today as it was the day it happened, right?
Mm,
And yet I have managed somehow to have a 25-year career as a professional dancer. I still sing,
mm.
I perform on stage, I play piano still, I'm composing, I run my own music studio. All of these things
That's great.
I I desired to do through and past the injury. I didn't let that define me and I didn't let it slow me down.
That's so terrific.
And that's something about a mindset of longevity as well, because I could have accepted the diagnosis from multiple doctors. You're going to be a paraplegic,
I,
right? We're going to put a rod down your spine. We're going to screw a halo into your skull. And I just said, thank you, no. I I I understand you think that's necessary. I know it's not. And I will manifest the healing that I need to move forward. And I will envision the life that I'm going to have. And I'm not going to be persuaded off of that vision. And I think that's part of the secret to moving through this chaotic world with a stillness and a purpose and a direction.
yes, but you also mentioned something that everyone should know is that yes, we all have to listen to a doctor, especially if you trust the doctors. You have to listen to them. And if you have a condition that everybody in your family has heart disease, then find the right clinic or the right doctor and be proactive about it and try to do something ahead of time. Don't wait till it is a crisis. But you also must have the courage to be aware of your own mental condition and to be honest about it and say, I'm not sure I agree, doctor.
Right.
And
You
I'd like a second or a third opinion, you know, and not just say, fine, I'll go there and you can cut off my head and then reattach it to my elbow. No, 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 no. No. It,
Exactly. Exactly. There's a point at which you have to take control and responsibility for your own well-being
that's right.
and your own
That's right.
care, right?
Yeah. I love the fact that, Ann, at 58, I'm 32 years older than you. So
Yes.
you have an entire career ahead of you. You know, and you were a musician. In my young years, high school and college, I played, and I was very good at all three. I was a clarinet, cello, and bassoon. I'm the only person you know in the world who got through college on a bassoon scholarship. Michigan
How
State,
fabulous.
Michigan State gave me a full tuition scholarship, and I was not taking any music classes at all. I was just in the orchestra and the band, and I got a degree in communications, which you'll also laugh about. In 1955, when I was a junior in college, when I transferred to Michigan State from University of Florida, uh, only two schools in America offered a degree in communications. Now every roadside
Really?
garage and chapel has a degree in communications, but only in those days Colgate and MSU. So I chose MSU, a state where I knew not one person. I
Yeah.
had never seen snow. I was 20 years old when I saw my first
Well, from
snow.
Florida, sure, that makes sense. Yeah.
It was okay. Hey, life goes on. You know,
Uh-huh.
you you do things. Is I don't mean it's kind of I'm sorry changing subjects, but I think it's
Great.
important also since we're talking about people moving on with their life.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not a gambler. I won't bet $5 on a soccer or a football game because I don't have any control over who's going to win, you know.
Mhm.
But I have over the years played, I call it crap shooting with my life. I've gambled $500,000 or $1 million or my life by doing things like accepting a job to be a creative director in Buenos Aires, Argentina, when my children were 9 and 11. And we
Wow.
moved for 4 years, we moved 5,400 miles, living in another culture, in another language, and everything. And everybody said, Jim, you're nuts. You're leaving at age 36. You're going to come back at age 39 and you'll be out of the marketplace for 4 years. I came back as as an accepted, successful international creative director, and I did even better.
Yeah.
Then in my late 40s, not planned at all, I wasn't having a midlife crisis, I swear to you. I bought an abandoned stack of stone in this town where I live in Amenia, New York, and I just loved it. It was an English country manor house full of raccoon droppings and boarded up and nothing functioning, everything. And
Oh,
bought it. I had one partner, restored it, and opened a business I knew nothing about, a country and conference center, and worked 70 hours a week for 8 or 9 years and made it nationally famous. And
fabulous.
and had it not worked, we would have lost our tail end because it was everything was invested in it.
Right.
And it
Right.
worked. It worked.
And it
It's
worked.
fine. And I say to people, it's good if you know if you can gamble with something if you know that by your own efforts you can control the outcome. You
Right.
know, I always knew that when I came to New York out of college, my first job in New York, I had there was no money at home, but my father died, remember. I took home $200 a month after taxes, and I was living in New York City. And I wouldn't say they were very nifty apartments by any means, you know, but it, you know something? I loved it, and I went to work an hour to an hour and a half early every day, and because I thought, wow, this is neat, and I'm going to learn something new, and I'm going to get things done so I can take another assignment. I laughed at myself, cut to X number of years later. I did very well actually early on. I didn't realize it until later on. My grandsons have told me how much money I was actually earning way back when I was in my 30s when I was earning as a corner office creative director in New York, and I was earning very comfortable six-figure salary, and I still went to work an hour to an hour and a half early. I did it my whole life, you know, because I thought, you know, and I raised the children with that. I didn't say it a great line. If you arrive on time, you're late.
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
you know, yeah,
Yes.
you can't
Right.
do that. You can't do that. never be late, you know. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Life is good. Life is good if you want it to be good. Here's my daily schedule. Every line is a day, and that has social things in it. And some of the lines are things that take 2 or 3 days, or write 2 new chapters of this, or write this, write that. Some are a trip to Mexico, a trip to England. And when I get back from Mexico, I'm home for 3 weeks, and then I'm going to England to be with my daughter who lives there. And then she and I are going to sail home on the Queen Mary 2 in a writer's retreat, which
Yes. Oh,
uh,
how
lovely,
fun!
which will be great fun. So
Oh,
we can dance every night and talk and play.
oh, I
So
love that. That's
yeah,
excellent. Oh, how
yeah,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
it's good.
that's the kind of thing that keeps you here on this planet, that engagement, that willingness to say yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, that still the thrill of adventure and the thrill of travel and the thrill of connecting with new cultures and new people,
Right,
right? Yeah, that
right.
adventure. Um, my husband and I are going to be touring Ireland coming up. And
I
everyone
love
asks,
it.
what do you want to do in Ireland? And I'm like, see the fairies?
It's 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 a it's
Eat
a
a
country
leprechaun.
it's a country of small pleasures. I love it. I've driven all through Ireland, and I absolutely love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
And
Yeah,
I obviously have Irish ancestry.
yeah,
My mother's family is Scotch Irish, and so I think it's partly my heritage calling me home.
yeah. Well, I'm as the Americans call it, Flaherty, but it's flat. I use the Irish pronunciation, Flaherty.
Ah,
It's Flaherty is the that's the spelling of the name,
eight.
Flaherty,
Yeah,
Flaherty, right?
yeah.
And it's an old Irish name. It was, uh, all of the Irish years ago, they would arrive at Ellis Island in New York as immigrants. And they say, sure, if we'd been dropping the O, no one would be knowing that we're immigrants. So the O'Flahertys, the O'Kellys, the O'Briens, the O'Reillys became Flaherty, all those different names.
Yeah.
Some of them kept the O. My daughter, who lives in England, loved it and legally changed her name back to I had named her, which a name she loves. I named her Shannon back
Oh,
63 years ago. And
nice.
so she's Shannon O'Flaherty,
There you
but
go.
lives in England. I have two very terribly British grandsons over there. So, yeah,
That's
but
fabulous.
yeah. But
Oh,
it's fun. Life,
so
life is fun.
life can be really a joyous adventure.
It is.
Yeah,
It
and it
is.
should be. And it should continue to be that,
Right.
you know? And as long as you don't have something really devastating that prevents you physically from traveling, that's you should continue to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I say those tragedies. I have friends who had brilliant family, and their top of the world kid in college surfing fell off a surfboard and was paralyzed all the way down. I mean, and they've had 8 years, 9 years and he shuffled across a stage to get his college degree. I mean, he's still brilliant and wonderful, but he's never ever going to be out there. And I think that's tragedy, because that
That is
completely
tragedy.
that controls your life. Or you have a child that has Down syndrome,
Sure.
and you must take care of them. You've got to take care of everybody. My partner had dementia. I was a caregiver for dementia for 4 years,
Yeah.
24/7, 24/7.
That's
And of course,
tough.
harder on the caregiver because the
Sure.
patient doesn't know anything's wrong.
Right.
you know, that,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with me.
Right. Right.
Ah,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a journey in itself, isn't it?
wow, it really is.
Mm.
And at the time, and now I can say, thank God I was healthy enough to do it,
Yes.
that I was able to do that. And let's talk about health for a minute. We have another minute, do
Sure
we?
we
Yes, we
do.
do. Good. I think everybody, everybody talks about health and good health and diet, but don't just talk about it. Do it and don't wait till the last minute. Start now. I mean, like I love I think pregnant women are beautiful. I do not think pregnant men are very handsome. I think if you have a pot belly, it really isn't healthy.
No, it's not.
Abdominal weight is not. Go on. There are any diet will work if you stick to it.
Right.
Good Lord, years ago, what was it? Suzanne Summers, the actress,
Oh,
wrote
yes.
Eat Great, Lose Weight. And I did that one year because I gained 15 pounds. We had a villa in Acapulco.
Ooh.
Jim has had a very good life, which he's earned. Nobody gave it to me, but I had a villa in Acapulco, and the first year in Acapulco, I gained 15 pounds. A lot of margaritas and things, and I went on that diet and I lost it. And now I have 2 meals a day. I have all fruit in the morning, just fruit, no bread, no nothing, just fruit and a healthy drink that I take my morning vitamins and things with. And then I go and I'm spoiled. Again, it's something I did for myself. I live in New York State, a cold state. I have an interior pool.
Lovely.
I go and I do 30 minutes of serious, not swimming laps. I do serious exercise in the deep end of the pool with weights and do everything 30 minutes.
Wow.
And then I come up, take a shower, get changed for the day, and do my work day because I have a sedentary life. I'm a writer. So
Yeah.
that exercise is very important. If I get hungry midday, I have a handful of mixed nuts. I have no lunch. I eat dinner at around 4 o'clock. A big dinner, very healthy dinner. Last night I had ahi tuna on a bed of pureed cauliflower and some asparagus that had been drenched in garlic butter and and a salad. I mean,
Health.
healthier it couldn't be. Again, spoiled. And this leads to another thing that I want to say to people. As you are getting older and as your parents are getting older, you know the big problem is going to be one of them is going to die. And you are going to say, what are we going to do with mom or dad? And you don't want them living alone after a certain point. It's too dangerous. It's devastating to their health, and they will retreat from life. Very few of them have the to get out there and do it. So when I was 64 and on top of the world, I mean, you couldn't touch Jim. I had it made. I was just right there. Boy, life was good. I thought, I think I'll hire somebody and try how I feel about having somebody live in for a year. I was used to a staff. I had been living in Mexico for a few years and I had run a company, so I was used to having a lot of people around me. But I hired one person, a little Mexican lady who worked for friends of ours in Mexico. She'd crossed the border. So I called her and I met her. I was in Houston and they drove her over from Austin and took her first plane ride. And 3 days later, I thought, my home is better. She's still with me 25 years later.
Wow.
So I have a, and she introduced, she's a citizen now. We go to vote
Yeah.
together. And she's 4'10". It's like having a Navy SEAL commander, an affectionate Navy SEAL commander running your house. I mean, my house is OR clean. The dogs are smiling. The gardener is on his toes. Everything works perfectly. She during the pandemic, she said, Senor Jim, you are not allowed to go grocery shopping or to the post office or to get gas for the car. The people are too dirty, and I wear gloves and booties, and you don't, and you're not. Yeah, I said, oh, all right, fine.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I mean, whatever she says, but and I have brilliant food. She does all the cooking, all the shopping, everything.
Wow.
Now, if you can, yes, that means you have to afford that. But I got to tell you, it's maybe cheaper than having mom or dad in a senior rehab
Right.
residential center, which run anywhere from six to $12,000 a month per
Yeah.
person.
Right.
So if you can find somebody and they can go on, I mean, of course, who loves her most? My daughters. They have a 90-year-old father that they really do not have to think about. They
Yes.
know, I mean, they laughingly say, Kelly, my elder daughter, said, Daddy, which I knew she's being sarcastic the minute she speaks like that. She
Yes.
said, Daddy, you know you can always come live with me. I said, I'd rather take gas. You know, she said, I know that because Daddy lives better.
Yeah.
Daddy has a nanny. I have a nanny. She calls herself, she introduces herself to people. I am Senor Jim's nanny. I,
I love it.
I love it. I love it. It gives me a life. I could
Yes.
write. I can take a business trip.
Yeah.
I don't, you can walk out of the house and I know the house is perfect. The
Mhm.
things get done, it's amazing, because I am not alone. She leaves me alone all day. I have total privacy and it's quiet. She checks on me six or seven times a day. She'll come in to change the ice in my ice bucket here or to make sure or to bring the mail in. But what she's doing is checking on me.
Right, right.
Is the old man still alive? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, that is great. That is really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
My parents made the decision to move into assisted living apartment.
Good.
And so when they were downsizing, it was thrust upon me as the only child to empty their home for sale.
I'm an only child also. Yeah.
So you can relate. And so their choice, they found really a beautiful retirement community. And they were still independent. They still had their own apartment. They had help if
Fine.
they needed it.
Yeah.
But then they were surrounded with people with friends and interests, and there was entertainment. There were wonderful cooked meals for them if they wanted it, or they could cook in their apartment, their choice,
Right.
right? And
Now,
that was where both of them stayed then until they both passed. And they really, I think, were thriving in that environment of
yeah.
being in community
Right.
and being making new friends and having these culturally enriched experiences that were always available to them. And if they didn't feel like doing it one day, well, they just stay in their apartment, you know?
No, that's very smart. Very
Yeah.
smart. But you know yourself, many as people get older, I don't, it won't happen to me because I am already older, even though I don't use the term. But what happens to many people is that they say, no, I'm fine. I don't need any help and I will not move to a smaller house. This is where I'm going to live. I ran into that recently with my own doctor. He was hit by a car. My doctor was hit by a
Oh,
car. And so I was
no.
taking food over to him every week after he got out
Oh,
of the
my
hospital. And
gosh.
he said, I said, what are you going to do, David? And he said, well, I'll stay in the giant house. His wife had died. The children had long moved away.
Yeah.
And I said, David, you can't be that dumb. You're not going to stay in a 12-room house.
Right.
I
Why?
said, you
Yeah.
need help. And he said, all right, Jim, I surrender. I'm going to sell the house. I'm moving into a two-bedroom condo in a group where there's some help if needed. You
Yeah.
know, it's it's very tough though. When people get older, they're people who are totally rational in their earlier years, things change. They say, no, I'm because they don't want to admit that they need help.
Right. And,
Yeah.
there's a grace in accepting help.
Yes.
You empower the other person to gift to you. And so it strengthens that relationship
Right.
between the
Right.
person that is giving and the
Right.
person that's receiving. Don't deny your family or your children the opportunity to help you because then they feel rejected.
Oh, absolutely. Ann.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. I don't know. People just don't. they either they don't. I say to people in the book, I say, I get to know your bathroom mirror. Start having an honest relationship with your bathroom mirror. Didn't you think I was charming last night? And that person, not particularly. I didn't think you had to suggest to the one person that they go to Weight Watchers and AA. Yeah, and it's true. If to do what I call to do some me search
Mhm.
instead of research. People
Yes,
need to do me search of, am
yes,
I being honest about who I am and who do I want to be?
yeah.
I mean, it's very, very important. Years ago, and I don't remember who it was. It was some wonderful professor, maybe from Harvard, I have no idea, who said, okay, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I want you to write down in 6 words who you are, what you represent, what you want to be, everything, the essence of who you are. And I thought I'm like the author James Bishner, who said, I can't say hello in 6 pages, and so I thought about it for 5 minutes and I wrote it down. This is about 3 years ago, and I keep it taped to the bottom of my monitor. So I have to see it all day long, right?
Present, living,
Right,
giving, loving. Yes, I am
yeah,
present, living, giving, loving. I love it. It's
right.
wonderful.
And I remind myself every day, Jim, that's who you're supposed to be. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be always present of the moment, present for the day, not living in the past. We're not Narcissus, the Greek god admiring his own reflection. We're not in the corner office anymore. And I do miss having a private secretary. But live where you are, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we can choose to thrive.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I did live in Manhattan. I had a wonderful I lived the Manhattan life. I lived the corner office life. And I liked it. Hey, it was very nice. For a while, I even lived in Olympic Towers. That's the building that Onassis built when he was married to Jackie Kennedy. I was on the 36th floor looking down into the spires of St. Patrick and out to the city.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I laughed at myself. I found myself there one night alone reading, as usual. If I'm not with people, I'm reading, and I had all the blinds closed. And I had the best view in Manhattan, and I had all the blinds closed. I thought, you don't live with a view, you live with your space.
Yeah.
You live your space. That's why my home is a barn. It was a 1940 dairy barn, and
Oh,
I
how
I
fun.
love it. The living room was the hayloft, so it's 35 feet high.
Oh, my goodness.
So it does things that architects don't do. It gives you drama of height
Yeah.
and big beams and posts and things that are wonderful. I love all that stuff.
So that's an expansive space for your spirit to fill.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and nice to show art too. I like a lot of art around, a lot of paintings.
Exactly. Exactly. One of the things I believe is that if you live in a beautiful place, it's because you made it that way.
Oh yeah, it should reflect you.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely. I went to a very interesting workshop with Modern Elder Academy uh, with Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
And then I did another 2.5 day weekend with Liz at another place. She's really incredible. There were the second one I went to, there were 498 attendees, and she had them right here,
Yeah.
right, right there. I mean, she had them laughing and near tears 5 minutes later and doing everything she wanted. The woman's a brilliant, brilliant stage presenter. And what she says is always wonderful, which is to accept who you are and to be thrilled with who you are.
Yes.
You know, learn learn to find that your purpose, find out the gift that you have, that everybody has a gift. And the idea is to develop the gift and then to share it with others.
Right.
you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because isn't that really what we're all here for?
Yeah,
Is to
yeah,
love and support each other.
absolutely, absolutely.
I think when we come from a mindset of abundance and cooperation, everyone wins, everyone
Mhm.
benefits. Because
Yeah,
when you give, your hands are then open to receive.
right.
If you're
That's right.
trying to clutch things to yourself so tight, how are you going to receive anything like this?
Right.
Right? You
Right.
have to first
Right.
get,
Open. Yeah.
yeah, you have to be open. You have to open your heart. You have to open your mind to say yes to the opportunities that are presented to you.
That's right.
You have to be willing to expand and grow and tell yourself, I'm enough. I can learn this. I can
Yeah.
do this, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Because
Right.
all of us have within us the ability to learn new things, to thrive, to give, to move forward. And that's a precious thing. And that
It
realization is a precious thing. And it propels us to wake up the next morning and say, Yay, I
yeah,
have another opportunity.
absolutely. I really do know. I said it before. I never ever wake up depressed.
Yes,
Never. It's just
exactly.
not in me because I think, good, I have another opportunity to get out there and to do it. You know, I don't know. People say, Jim, don't you ever worry? I said, what, worry because I'm closer to death? I said, no, I don't go to bed thinking, I wonder if I'll wake up on the right side of the grass tomorrow. In fact, one of my favorite things, if I'm giving a speech, I say, George Burns, and I sometimes have to tell a younger audience, George Burns was a wonderful comedian in America.
Who that was, right?
George Burns and Gracie Allen, and I said he was
Yeah,
brilliant. And on his 95th birthday, a reporter asked him, Mr. Burns, do you ever worry about dying? And he said, I can't die now. I'm booked.
right. I don't have time, right?
Yeah. And I say that too. I'm booked. Look at that schedule. I can't possibly
Exactly.
stop.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, that's a delight. Well, you know what? On that note, please tell everyone what's your website? How can we get your book? How do they get in touch with you? Because this has
Okay.
been such a joy.
Well, thank you. If here's my name, folks.
Okay, there we go. Now we can see
And
it.
my website is jamesbflaherty.com.
Excellent.
So if you write that down, the Flaherty is FLAHERTY.com. And that website will tell you more than anybody would ever want to know about me.
Fantastic. Well, this has been an absolute joy. We'll have to do it again sometime.
I loved it, man. I feel like
Lots of
I've just
fun.
had an hour with a good friend. I wish you were sitting across
Absolutely.
my dinner table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, mwah,
Okay,
and
sweetie.
we'll talk again.
The same to you.